Hi, I'm Sheila, and I'm here to help you be their parent. It's back to school season, and I know there might be some of you out there that your kids are year round and you've already been back to school for a little bit. And some of you are you're getting really close. And then there's some of you that have a ways to go. But I figured this would be a good reminder episode of some things that we can do as the grown-ups to help our kids be successful at school. And there are a few things that your child needs to be successful at school that you have control of. And they are a good night's sleep. They need to be well fed, and they need to have all of their things together, whether that's their backpack, their lunch, PE uniform, their band instrument, sports equipment, library books. You get the idea. So we need to do what we can to help those things be ready for them. Now, what we do, is it going to be perfect? Nope. Nothing in life is. But there are a lot of things that we can do to help them be prepared for their day. Now, I'm not one to say, oh, make everything perfect for them and make sure they don't have to struggle with anything. No, that's not the case. But there are some things that we can do as the grown-up that sets them up for success. There's things they still need to do. There are still parts that are not going to go smoothly, and that's okay. Struggle is okay for our kids. So I don't want us to get so caught up in, oh, we've got to make sure everything is just right. But the things we can control and help them, we need to do. So, bedtimes. You need to have figured out what time is the right bedtime and wake up time for your child during the school year and have made the adjustment to those times from summer times at least 1 to 2 weeks before school starts. If you wait until the night before, you are asking for disaster for both of you, because the excitement of back to school already is going to have them all amped. And if they've been going to bed at 10, and now you say, let's go to bed at 8, their body is not going to be ready for that. And they're going to have a really hard time getting to sleep. And then when you wake them up at 6, they're going to be so cranky and tired. So do yourself and them a favor and start making those adjustments. I would adjust bedtime first, do that for several days, and then start waking them up that little bit earlier to get them ready for school time. It just makes it easier on their bodies and their little brains to make it gradual instead of just overnight. Now, they also need to be well fed. Now, I know some kids will do breakfast at school, and that's fine. But a lot of kids eat breakfast at home. Our school offered free breakfast and lunch, but we did have a lot of our students that ate breakfast at home and either didn't eat anything at school, or sometimes they would grab 1 or 2 things. That's fine. But having some healthy breakfast options available that maybe you prep over the weekend, like some protein muffins, some egg bites, breakfast burritos. All of these freeze really well. Like, you can make a super big batch, freeze them up, and then pull them out, heat, and go. You can Google all of those ideas and you'll come up with a lot of recipes you can try. Pick the ones that you think will work for you guys and tweak them as needed. And that is one thing you can do to help set up the morning well. And if you know your morning is going to be really rushed, you could even set out the dishes you need and maybe even some of the non-perishable food items the night before. And that's a maybe, right? Like, that seems like, oh, that's not that big a deal. However, we were foster parents for a little while, and our son kind of took it upon himself for about 2 weeks. It didn't last long, but he did it for about 2 weeks. We had 2 little boys that they woke up ravenous. We had to feed them immediately. And then we took them to daycare and they would eat there too. So they were just hungry little boys. They liked to eat. And so for a little while, my son would ask me the night before, what are you going to fix them in the morning? And I'd be like, oh, we're going to do yogurt and fruit. He would put out the bowls and the spoons. And then he'd be like, so what are we having tomorrow? Oh, I think we'll do, again, bowls and spoons. And so he would put out those dishes. I mean, it takes 2 seconds to grab dishes, but just that one thing kind of helped. And a lot of it was the fact that I'd already decided the night before what we were having instead of having to decide in the moment. And just that little thing right there just helped the morning to go a little bit smoother. Now, you can also prep their lunches, and I suggest the night before or even on the weekend. Again, you can prep a bunch of things on the weekend to be ready to go. Put all the non-perishable items in the lunchbox, and then put a Post-it note so you know what else to add from the fridge in the morning. That way you don't forget anything. And now I have seen some really organized families, this was not us, that they would have a bin that has a certain type of food item in it and another bin that had another one in their pantry. And then they would have bins in the fridge that had like the fruits or the veggies and whatever. And the kids knew that they needed to grab at least one thing from each bin to go into their lunch for it to be a well-balanced meal. And by doing that, it put some of the responsibility on the child, but also made it because they did it and they picked more likely that they were to eat it. So something to consider. Again, I wasn't that organized, so we did not do that. A couple of things that you could look up. These are some ones that I have used. I follow It's a Flavorful Life. She's on all the socials. And she will show once school starts back up what she puts in her girls' lunches. She also does a lot of meal preps for dinner. And I've used those for myself for my lunches and our family dinner. So that's a great option. And she's a dietitian, so they're relatively healthy. So, and they are great. They are very yummy. And then another one that I've used is the Money Saving Mom on her website, her blog. I know it's going kind of old school here, but she does have a lot of freezer-friendly recipes that I used when my kids were little. Breakfast burritos, and she made her own homemade Hot Pockets, so I did those too. So anyway, those are some options that you could look up. Now, the next thing is they need to have their supplies. And this is another thing that doing it the night before is going to help your morning to go so much smoother. Lay out their clothes the night before, or put together 5 outfits in a central location, whether it's on top of their dresser or you get those shelves that hang from the closet bar and put them on there, that they can just grab one stack and that's what they need for the day. Just one less decision to make in the morning is always helpful. For younger kids, night before, always check their backpacks. Always, always, always. You never know what a teacher is sending home. I know we're doing more electronically, but there are still a lot of papers that come home. So checking that every night is going to be a benefit for you and your child. And then for all ages of kids, I would check the app that your district uses for communicating with parents every night. You can't just count on notifications to make sure that you get everything. There's a lot of things that just kind of go through and maybe you don't get the notification, but the message is sitting there. So by just getting in the habit, some point in the evening, you check that app. Hopefully you won't miss out on anything. Okay. And then I would have a location somewhere in the house that you put all the things that they need to take in the morning in one place. The only thing I would not put there is the lunchbox. I would leave that near the fridge so that you remember to put those last minute things in. But everything else, the backpack, the sports equipment, the instrument, library books, everything is in that one spot so you know to grab those on your way out the door. And then I would make a checklist that you would run through at bedtime to make sure you've done everything. And then have a checklist for the morning that you run through real quick to make sure you have it all before you head out the door. These are just some general ideas to help your school days go smoother. I'm sure I'm missing some things, but every family is different. I try to keep it really broad and general. But pick and choose what would work for you and tweak what you need to make it your own. You know what's going to work best for you and your kids. So take what you need and make it your own. And by putting in some effort and planning, you can set yourself up for success each day. And that goes for you as well. Maybe you need to lay out your clothes the night before, as well as prep your lunch while you're prepping your kids. all of those little steps just make your day go so much smoother, and you can just kind of glide into your day. And then maybe, just maybe, you might have a really enjoyable car ride to school. If you have any questions or need a sounding board, you can message me on Instagram at BeThereParent. If you found this episode helpful, follow, set up automatic downloads, review, and share. I'd appreciate it.